Creating Your Own Job, aimed at providing you with resources and assistance to start your own business. Focusing on customer benefits, analyzing the marketplace, financial forecasting, financial assistance, creating your own job.
Welcome to another edition of Creating Your Own Job, a series that's devoted to providing resources for entrepreneurs just starting up a business or people who are trying to expand their business. I'm Louise Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of Tampa Bay Community Network, where you can come and take video production training and very quickly become a certified producer and have your own show on the access channels, tbcn.org. Today we're going to be talking about networking, and with me is Heather Brown. She is the president of BPW, Business and Professional Women, Tampa Bay. Welcome, Heather. So glad you could make it. For people who don't know what BPW is, can you give us a little history, especially in this town?
In this town, BPW originally was a national organization, and it was formed many years ago to support and empower women in the professions, to help them do well, pay equity issues, address different challenges that they were having with their careers and being a professional in what at the time was primarily a male-dominated world of fields. In the Tampa Bay area, currently Tampa Bay BPW is the culmination of downtown BPW, which were some local chapters, and West Shore Midday BPW. West Shore Midday BPW was formed, I know, in 1992, and in the last 3 years, we became or transformed into Tampa Bay BPW. We are an affiliate of the state of Florida, Business and Professional Women, and there are several local chapters throughout the state of Florida, all of which are dedicated to the promotion and support of women in the workplace, to help them as a networking vehicle, to provide them opportunities for personal and professional development, and to provide a support group for women and people interested in women in the professional workplace.
I'm a past member of BPW downtown. Probably in the 80s I was a member of that one, and then visited often with BPW Carrollwood, where I lucked out and got the Woman of the Year award. It was a wonderful group. I know there were many chapters in the Tampa Bay area, and that the organization was founded almost 100 years ago, which is incredible. I mean, just incredible. And that they did and have done so much work for charities locally and for charities across the world. I remember them building wells in Sri Lanka or contributing microloans to women to start businesses in remote places so that they could help feed their families. One of the things about starting your business, and that's when I joined BPW, is you really have to get word out, and you usually don't have a lot of money.
Correct.
And so networking is the key, which I think I'll ask you to explain what you think networking is. We'll just talk about it and let people know why we think it's a powerful tool.
It is a powerful tool. To me, networking is it's a tag term, the word networking, but to me, the process is going out to reach out to other individuals, other businesses, people who can help you create those links beyond yourself. You go to networking functions to meet other professionals in businesses that are similar to yours so you can learn from them, as well as businesses that are not similar to yours, because in general, you can always learn from the people around you. The networking function is something that has kind of become, you can do networking with large groups, you can do networking just having lunches one-on-one. Any relationship you make, the idea being that through that relationship or that connection, they can connect you to other people who can help you grow your business, that at some point you will find a connection for someone who needs your service, needs your product, and that becomes a source of reference or referral to you to help you build that. And unlike going out and placing an ad in a newspaper or in a periodical, networking is a face-to-face. And for a lot of people, when they first start out in business, and even those that have been in business for years, that connection and getting a personal referral or making a personal connection to a business from another individual is far more powerful in actually attracting your business. And I think in this day and age, networking is vital for people just starting out, and it is terribly important for those who have long since been connected, because client bases change, and that you're always trying to find a mechanism or a means to connect to new clients, new connections, new people who may need your service.
One of the things I used to say when I did power networking talks was, the rules of life are not written down, and it's true of the rules of business. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't talk to other people, you don't get the inside scoop on things. I mean, you need to realize that networking is something like, if I called you and said, hey, I call 3 friends or neighbors and said, who's a good plumber? That's really a networking.
Yes,
You're calling people to find out who they would recommend for you for a service you might need. Or you're calling them and saying, I'm gonna interview with a possible client from the ABC Corporation. What do you know about them? And if you didn't have a network, you may not learn that those people aren't paying their bills lately. Or here's something you might want to bring up because those people really like poodles or something. And they'll tell you, they'll give you a key to getting into the company or to establishing a conversation with those people. So the rules of life and business aren't written anywhere, and you really have to do it. I know we have far more networking tools now because we have a whole online world. So we have LinkedIn and Facebook and all of this, but I still think there's some great value in doing personal things like going to a monthly meeting.
Yes.
You're the woman who sells cars, mm-hmm. you know, for example. I think one of the things that people don't realize is that if I sit at a luncheon table with you every month and then, no, I didn't buy a car and I wasn't in the market for a car, but, you know, 6 months later or something, my cousin says, hey, I'm looking for whatever, a Honda. Oh, I know a woman who sells Hondas. She's really nice. I have lunch with her all the time. Call her up. Here's her number. I look in my book and I give it to you. And before you know it, that woman has been able to do some business, and
Absolutely.
You've found somebody that is connected.
Absolutely, and that's where I believe the power still lies. And where we have a lot of options now with the social media availability and the LinkedIn networks and the Facebook pages to connect with a lot of people electronically, but the face-to-face has a different feel to it. I still think it has a great value in the marketplace, because I've got lots of connections on LinkedIn, and some I have met in person and some I have not. But the likelihood of me recommending someone or referring someone is far greater that it'll be someone I've met and I have a relationship and a connection to face-to-face, where I know a little bit more about them directly than just what's on their paper and what's in the resume. You know, my history with BPW has been that I was introduced. I am an accountant by trade, and we have a marketing director within our firm, and she said, you know, I have a group that you might be interested in. So I went with her to a luncheon, and BPW holds luncheons. They hold them regularly, and we usually have, all the lunches actually have the same format. We all start at the top of the meeting with doing a roundtable introduction. So every woman in the room gets to stand up and do what they would call your elevator speech. This is my name, this is what I do. And you know, you go and you meet these women every week, and you hear that over and over, and you form those. So yes, if someone asks me, do I know a realtor? I know several, and I know them well enough that I've had lunch with them several times a year for years now. And I know their business ethic because I've sat next to them and listened to them and spoken to them. And that's different than knowing someone because I've seen their sign or because I've had a connection to them electronically. It doesn't feel as tangible to me.
And Heather, I think you're in an occupation that I've long felt like lawyers, accountants, and certain other occupations. I really would have had to meet you a few times before I'm going to be willing to tell you my legal problem or my financial status. If it was a financial planner, anything to do with my money and my stuff like that, it's not like you could recommend somebody to me that there's no way, there's no personal connection or anything. There has to be
Correct.
something where I'd have to know and see you a few times. I think it's more critical in certain fields than it is in, say, you know, where can I get the best deal on a carton of Coca-Cola? I don't really care. I really don't have to know that person well. I could just go buy it. It's a discounted price on something, and that's fine with me. I think a lot of people don't understand the breadth of the network they already have and don't use.
Correct.
Yeah. So my biggest thing is, for if you're out of work or you're starting a company or anything, sit down and make a list of everybody you know without thinking about your particular company. Just say, I'm going to just start making a list of everybody I know. You will not believe how large your list really is. Start to make that list and then leave it alone for a while. Go back to it and say, how could these people be helpful to me? And then you'll start remembering that, oh, this person I know from, I've known them since high school or college. I know that I remember now, their dad or their uncle I met, or their cousin, and he was in a business that is similar to the business I'm going to start, or is a potential client for that business, or is someone who could help me find my clients. So I'm going to call that person and ask them to reconnect me with their cousin or uncle or whoever it is, so that I can start building and going and seeing these people and not asking them for the job or not asking them for the business that you're doing necessarily, but just saying, is there any chance you have 5 minutes where I can come in and just ask you 5 or 10 minutes to give me advice? I understand you're so bright in your field, and I just need 10 or 15 minutes because I'm thinking of starting a like business. Sometimes it works really well. If you remember somebody from out of town, you're going to open a florist shop, but there was a florist shop in a place you usually vacation, or your old hometown, or a friend's cousin has a florist shop someplace. And if you call them and say, it's non-competitive to them, I'm going to open one in Tampa, I'm going to open one in Brandon. And I just wondered if you'd give me 10 or 15 minutes of time, tell me what I should avoid or how I could best, the best advice you can give me for what I need to do. Give me the top 10 things.
Yes,
Right.
yes. And most people, when someone's asking for assistance, they will help you.
That's right. Most
They
people
will.
don't want to say no.
They don't want to say no.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, for most people, when you're asked, can you help me for this? Can you help me avoid the mistakes that you may have made along the way? It's flattering when people ask you for help.
That's true.
And so people tend to do that. But it is, as you said, you go through everybody knows a very large number of people, and you don't realize the network you already have. And certainly people coming into the younger people coming up into business, they don't realize currently with their social media, they are building a network. They know a lot of people. And so for them, a lot of that is electronic, but then they have to transition to recognize that sometimes what you consider to be your social circle, when you're going into business, actually becomes your first network of relationships and connections that connect you to other people.
And with things like Facebook and LinkedIn, you can actually see now what the connections are that
Yes,
the
you
other
can.
people have. You can go in there and say, well, we became friends, so now let me go spend some time and really look through their list of 300 or 500 people and see if there's anybody in there who could be of some support or help or whatever it is. Now with the groups like BPW, much like Network of Executive Women, and where I belonged for over 20 years, and the Athena Society, and I've been a member there well over 20 years too. Those groups, which are women, members are women, were originally started, as you said, to help women. They were to
Address political and social issues specifically applicable to women
right.
at the time.
And so
yeah.
what they kind of said in the beginning, I don't know how true this is anymore, but if I'm going to do business, I'm going to first try to do it with women. That's why how they started. There'll be men out there who do the same kind of business, but I'm going to first try to raise up the economic well-being of women. And so you would naturally now try to network within your group. And of course with BPW, where everybody's different, they're not all the same business. I mean, you can belong to a CPA club, right?
I can.
And
I do.
And
Yeah.
you do. And so then you have people who can talk to you about your own business and give you hints and advice, and I messed up with this and try to avoid that mistake, and here's a really good tip that I learned. But in terms of groups that are just women-oriented or location-oriented, Carrollwood Area Business Association,
Yes.
for example, which has been around for a long time, or social service, well, PPW social service, but you have Sertoma, Kiwanis, Rotary, these clubs that were
Yes.
notoriously just all men, and then finally opened up to women some years ago. But there you can find with different occupations that ideas from one occupation can help you with your business.
Yes.
And because they transfer over, or you're dealing with issues like, how should I hire? And you can check with people about what their hiring experiences were and how they interviewed or how they did verification of employment issues or whatever it is, but issues that we all have in common. Everybody going into business has a lot of common.
A lot of the structural setups and the tenets of the business, a lot of them are universal. You need to worry about, how do I get my information out there? How do I hire people? How do I deal with maintaining books and getting financing and loans to start a business? And when you go into groups like this, you have access to a whole variety of people who have done that or are in the process of doing that. But a lot of the tenets on how you get going are the same. And there is a huge volume and availability of organizations that you can go with. I belong to several CPA societies, and my networking there has a slightly different feel because I'm talking to peers in the same industry. So I use a lot of those connections for technical resources and context to tell me, okay, how have you had in this particular area of the business? What I get with BPW is very different in many ways because it is not specific to my industry. And now I'm dealing with women, and there are men occasionally who do attend. It's not a women's only club, but
Yeah,
certainly we do.
I remember men's.
But just broader scope information. How do you get funds to start your business? It doesn't matter what business you're in. Certainly most entrepreneurs or people who are in their own business had to worry about that. How would I deal with hiring? Well, you get interesting perspectives when you talk to different industries, but everybody's willing to help, and the network and those connections is an invaluable tool for anyone getting started, even if they're not actually building their own business at the time, if they just want to be able to make connections to draw business or just for personal development. You've got a room full of mentors.
I remember when I used to give this power networking talk that I gave everybody some handouts, and on the handout was a cartoon I had found, and it was a man in a suit. He's in the bathroom, and there's a janitorial person in the bathroom, and he's shaking hands with the janitorial guy, and I used it to say, because it said networking, and because here's this guy in a business suit, and he's talking to this janitor, and he's obviously, they're talking. So it said networking on it, or here the beginnings of networking, and I'd always say talk to everyone. The point of this is that you never know who can be your next link to something large or something you wouldn't have learned any other way. And I often like to tell the story of a friend of mine. Her husband owned his own business in New York for many years and ended up with two extremely large clients and didn't bother with anybody else anymore. It's kind of a mistake. Both those clients, within months of each other, decided to take he was an air conditioning repair person, to take it in-house. And he lost both clients like that. And he'd been doing that for years and years, so here he is 10 years later or something. He's now older, and he has lost his business virtually. And to get restarted, so anyway, he called me up, and I started giving him the same networking advice, call everybody, do this, write your list, blah, blah, blah. And he didn't listen much. And here I was in Tampa, Florida, and someone from the janitorial staff of the Lincoln Center, where my offices were located, came in, and I heard his New York accent, and I said, hey, is that a New York accent? And he said, yeah. I said, where are you from? And he starts telling me which county, and what are you doing down here? And he tells me his whole story, like most New Yorkers do, tell you more than you ever needed to know. And he tells me that he used to be in air conditioning in the same county as my friend's husband, but that he moved down to Tampa because he reconnected with an old girlfriend, and they had married. And he, of course, left this wonderful job he had in New York. And he said, my former employer is bothering the heck out of me because he's calling me constantly, telling me to go back there because he really needs help. So I said, you want to get him off your back? And he said, yeah. I said, well, here, let me give you the name and number of a guy he should recruit. That was hilarious to me because I called my friend's husband and said, I got you a job, but I'm not going to tell you the name of the place because you will call them when you shouldn't. You should let the guy call you. And he was offered a job making like 3 times more than he'd ever made per week because they thought, and rightfully, that he knew what he was talking about, that he'd been in the business a long time, and he had the experience level, and they didn't realize that he was, unemployed and, had lost quite a bit of business. So I had networked with somebody that you just wouldn't have expected that to happen. And I'm in a different state. I'm, 1,500 miles away, and I have created a job for somebody. So I try to give that as a great example of just talk to everybody. And if you're not helping yourself, you'll probably help a friend of yours, and you'll build your network even bigger.
Yes, that's how it works.
Have you stories like that too?
A lot of it is, yes. You have someone come in, oh, you're a CPA. Well, yes, I am. Well, can you answer a question on me? Well, sure, I can answer your question. And you give them an answer and you help them, and they go away, and a while later when they are looking for you, they find you. And they're head of a big company, and it was just a casual question about a personal matter. But they remember that you helped them. And in my business in particular, accounting is accounting. If you're doing it correct, it's very similar from one office to the next. It's all about the service. So when you make that connection and you do it in a way that someone remembers you and remembers
bread upon the
fondly.
waters or something, isn't that what it's called?
Yes.
I think what you're saying is really valuable. Over the years, I have learned very well to do people favors constantly.
Yes.
Do as many favors as you can. Hope you won't need them to do it back, especially if they're in bad shape. But in the end, they now owe you. I mean, don't look at it like that. Look at it like, I'm going to do this guy a favor because it's a nice thing to do. But 4 years later, when he's mayor, or something you totally need, some years later when he's a camera guy that can help you with put on your TV show, or help you training new members like we do here, or help you figure out how to collaborate on a grant, pick up the phone, hi, how are you? They remember you because you did them a favor a long time ago, and that's what you're saying. Give people a hand.
Give people a hand.
And pretty soon you'll find yourself with all these hands ready to help you too.
Yes, where you can help, and at some point it will hopefully come back to you. But the best connections are made in that manner. I believe if you give out and you do answer questions, it's very simple. It could be anything. It could be simple. You never know if the gentleman next to you in the gym who is on that treadmill next to you every day is an owner of a large company who may need your service later on. You don't know. You don't know. And so every connection is valuable. Every connection is valuable. And those connections lead you to other connections, and it just can grow exponentially in no time whatsoever. And for anyone in business, that is immeasurable, to be able to connect with that many people. Referrals will work better, even if it's just in passing. I met this person at a restaurant. They were sitting at my table, and I heard them talking about that same thing. Let me see if I can recall. Oh, yep, this is that person's name. Maybe you should call them. And that's the value of the network, is someone coming to you.
Now, with regard to BPW, how do people get involved in BPW if who are maybe our viewers, or they have some female friends, or male, as you said.
Male.
If they're male friends who care about the equality of women, they should come in, right?
The best place to get information about Tampa Bay BPW is to visit our website, which is www.tampabaybpw.org. All of our events are listed there. We have monthly luncheons, with the exception of, I think, 2 times a year. We have monthly luncheons where you do have an opportunity to meet and network and then hear a speaker on a topic that is valuable, hopefully, to you or your career. It could be anything on social media, or how to dress to impress, how to network. And then we do an annual fundraiser as well, a networking night event.
So the meetings are open. They'll find them
Meetings
on the
are open.
website.
You can find them on the website.
They just make a reservation and they
You
go.
can call or register through the website, and we are open to members and guests alike to attend any of our events. Come and see if we are a nice fit for you, and by all means, we're happy to have anyone join us.
I think that's an important thing. Come and see if we're a nice fit for you. I did join a couple of groups when I was first starting business that I joined the night I got there, and I really should have waited and gone to more than one meeting, because I was then owned a marketing PR company and found out that they had like 7 people saying they were marketing people, and they were just really doing different things, and I probably shouldn't have done those. But in the meantime, I appreciate your advice, and I think that people, our viewers, will. And thank you for joining us, Heather. And dear viewers, we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in.